Hey guys, it is Nick here with another Nick's Topics Walking Dead What If topic video for you guys today. And today we are getting into part 7 of What If Lori Survived. Now, as I said at the beginning, Lori was a character that I had absolutely no respect for outside of saving Beth's life for about 3 seasons. But anyways, you see, in this story, I made it so her character, after surviving her pregnancy, was significantly altered to actually be likable. And her being alive has changed a lot. Events changed, characters survived, etc. But to recap the last episode, we see the group getting to Alexandria in a much more calm and sophisticated manner, so to speak. And honestly, there's not much suspicion with the group since their character development, especially Rick's, has been significantly altered. Now, with Deanna and the interviews, like I said last time, outside of additional characters being there and Deanna's slight suspicion of the governor's motives, because he's not like truly 100% good, he's like somewhat there, nothing really changes this part of the story. Until we get to when Rick and Michonne were offered the police uniforms, in which I said that Rick would be the only one getting it because of Lori being in his life instead. Now, some would argue that Lori could be a cop along with Rick and actually take her husband's stead along with that. But I see her more getting like a counsel sort of role in that regard. Deanna would give her sort of like that, because I don't really see Lori being a cop. So, or a constable, sorry, Deanna worded it that way. I also said that Abraham and Mitch could be good friends with their experience in the military and Mitch's like tank usage and just their knowledge of weaponry and such. I think that these two, there was a missed opportunity to see them as friends. Also, initially in the original story, Elijah and Tara were somewhat getting into a relationship before they fought the people at the prison. But then Elijah was killed by Lizzie and Mika. I feel that with Elijah being alive, that this would actually spark a relationship between the two, and actually show up more as we get into Alexandria. To recap the last episode of the last important details, I said that instead of Carol telling Rick about Pete abusing Jesse, that the word would spread through Andrea, because she's alive, and more or less for convenience sake, not just because I wanted to throw someone in, just for convenience sake, I feel that this might happen. And Andrea and everybody else knowing like Ed and what Shane was like and everything, they would want to stop it immediately. Now, Rick and Jesse aren't going to have that small kind of relationship that they did in the original story, or at least were starting to, because of Lori being in Rick's life. He still wants to help her, don't get me wrong, but it's not like anything like romantic like, you know? Anyway, I also threw a little nod to the comics and said to Michonne actually being with someone, and that's Tyrese. Like I said, a little nod to the comics where they were a couple. And I wanted to kind of throw Michonne a bone here, because I feel like in pretty much the majority of my stories, I haven't given Michonne nearly enough credit, or like shown her like up as much as I possibly could have. So there you guys go. Now, Deanna still doesn't want to go like killing Pete after the group like consoles her about like what's going on. And the group is much more calm here, so they're not truly 100% suggesting it either, not even Rick. He kind of is, but they decide to go about a much more like resolute solution, like kicking him out, and or just putting him in a different house. So that deal's done. After that, I feel that the whole Daryl and Aaron run and Morgan saving them, that honestly wouldn't change. But then we get to what would originally be the meeting to kick out Rick. But since Rick didn't give that whole speech and pull a gun on everybody, and the situation with Pete was dealt with much more effectively, kicking him to another house like before, except Rick didn't have to beat him up this time. So, if there was a meeting that night, I feel that it would be more along the lines of Pete, basically. It wouldn't be about Rick. But the whole Rick seeing the zombie thing and the gate open, I feel that that might happen, but maybe with someone else. But the meeting still does happen, but I feel it would regard Pete, if anything. And we still get Pete coming out with Michonne's sword, because I feel it would happen maybe one way or another. It's just Pete might have to be a little bit more cautious whenever going to see, like, Rick and everybody else, people who basically disowned him to another home. But instead of Deanna's husband, Reg, getting sliced by the sword, it is Mitch who actually puts up a decent fight before sadly dying. And the governor, right at that moment, just shoots Pete right in the head. No mercy, no hesitation, anything. Now, I said that the governor kind of turned good, but he's still kind of in his old mood, just not like nearly as much as like before, but he still kills Pete because even though he kind of forced Mitch to join him, he still liked him and what he was worth. Now, Rick tells Deanna that they didn't want this for Pete, but he chose his own grave, and he admits that the governor can be a little feisty at times, but it's what needed to be done. Pete was a menace, and several members of the group said they knew a person like him, people like him. I'm talking about Ed and Shane here. And Deanna, albeit reluctantly, since she didn't lose Reg this time, is still kind of skeptic and wanting to kick the governor out now, but I feel that Lily and several others like Andrea and stuff would like convince her to keep the governor in and say it's basically what needed to be done. He would have killed someone else had Mitch not stepped in, so it's what needed to be done basically. Through the time skip that we get through the end of season 5 and the beginning of season 6, in my What If Amy Survived, I discussed that Daryl and Beth being together would mean that they would have a kid, which I called Katniss for simplicity's sake. And I feel that the same would apply here because Beth's alive. And I feel that this would be still the most likely thing to happen. But it would happen like sometime after reaching Alexandria, so Katniss is very young still. Like a baby pretty much, a toddler maybe. We also get a very nice interaction between the likes of Morgan and Rick and Lori. Lori very much so thanking Morgan for saving Rick's life, because had he not done that, Rick would have never found him. She owes basically everything to him because he brought her husband back to her. So it's definitely a nice interaction, but Morgan doesn't really have too much to say outside of maybe thank you, because, I mean, he's calmer now because of his Eastman interaction, but I don't know. Morgan sometimes isn't all there, if you guys know what I mean. Anyways, the beginning of season 6 and Rick leading everybody against the zombie herds and everything, that pretty much plays out the same. Nothing really to cover there. All up until the clock tower falls. And this is where we're going to have a big change because of the people in the group and the fact that the wolves are going to be there and deciding who dies in the next episode, because that's where we're going to be leaving things for the moment. Can the group actually deal with the wolf threat more now since they have more people? Or could this end up turning the entire story of The Walking Dead on its rear? And that's where we leave things for the moment. Now, I hope that you guys truly are enjoying the story so far, for what it's worth. Like I said, I definitely didn't think that I would ever make a story like this, and I definitely like it myself, where I actually made it go so far. What do you guys think is going to happen with the wolf threat and going forward into the story? And what do you guys think about Lori's development? Leave a comment, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.